Hey, welcome back into our live stream. Today we're going to jump into, this is one I think of our more popular requests, and that is low cap gems. Some of the rankings, most of these are going to fall in the play to earn category and also some in the metaverse, and we'll dive in deep. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back to TechPath. Let's get into these live stream topics today, which is the metaverse and play to earn gaming. We continue to report on really kind of the movers and shakers of this category. It is one of those categories that just continues to climb in terms of adoption, but also in terms of interest. A lot of people are really referring to this as kind of the next boom of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Before we get started though, I want to thank our sponsors, Token Metrics. This is actually a tool I use. I'm bringing it up on the page. That is a tool that I use when I'm doing some of my low cap research. One thing that I do is I'll go over here to the analytics side. I'll get into these ratings right here, and it'll bring up my ranking, but I'm going to look at, do a filter real quick, and this is just a simple market cap filter of less than or equal to, in this particular case, I'm going to go 100, let's go 100 million, and let's take a look at what we have here. So less than 100 million in my market cap. This is going to start giving me a variety of projects that get listed on a variety of different exchanges. But the point is that Token Metrics sucks all this data in, and they do something called the TM score, which is this little score right here, TM grade, I should say, right here, which is a compilation of sentiment, some of their own research, all that good stuff. I don't look at anything really under a 75, so there's a lot of projects that are really on the hunt right now. Nearpad is one I'm researching right now. Another one that I'm looking at is Fuse. Let's see, what else is something I'm looking at? Sabre, we've already reported on, talked about that in one of our last videos. Viper, another project that is another one. If you hover over these, it'll give you the place and where you can buy these. In most of these, I shouldn't say most, but for the most part, when you get into these low caps, just as a reminder, many of these projects are not available in the US, so they might be available either through an international exchange or something like, other projects. And I'll show you how to kind of identify where and how you can get to some of these projects. Some of these you cannot get to if you're living here in the United States, but remember, we have as big an audience internationally as we have here in the US. So we try to kind of answer questions for everybody as much as we can. Let's get into the chart today. And I want to look at, first of all, the ranking. So let me kind of pull up the current ranking of our low cap gems, metaverse, and gaming. So what you're looking at here on screen now is our January sentiment data. GameStarter, of course, coming in at the #1 position. One of the criteria that we pulled for this report was 500 million on their diluted market cap. So diluted market cap, a little bit more realistic on the overall value of these projects. Bomb Crypto comes in at, and this of course is based on sentiment. We are not tracking amplification on this particular chart. We will probably start looking at some of these individual projects on amplification. To give you guys a little bit more tuned in. And when we do look at a chart, we dial in typically through, if it's trading chart, we'll dial in through sentiment and amplification that gives us a little bit of an indicator on how tokens might be performing in the next, say, 7 days to 10 days out. #2 on the list is Bomb Crypto, 7809. And then a new entry in this list, which is a project called Monstera, not listed yet, but will be one that you should be looking to and watching for as they start to go out on their ICO. And eventually we'll start to see this show up in some of the listing centers, whether it's over on PancakeSwap or places like that. Then we've got D Horizon holding on at 77.95. Sin City, another project that has not launched yet, and I'll go through some of these. I'll show you some of the graphics, all that good stuff. Battle Hero at 77.52. Dark Frontier, 77.32. They just did a NFT sale just here recently. They actually sponsored a video, and it was on their spacesuits. And they're, again, one of those games has a lot of similarities, at least in strategy, to things like what Big Time is doing. So another one that we want to watch. Place War has kind of become a little bit of a stalwart here on our charts because they've been able to make it into these lists overall when we compare. Now remember, when we look at these small micro caps or these small low cap gems, don't get surprised by, remember, it's not a race on sentiment, because you could have a big game like Sandbox that's scoring a 79, and then a small project like Bomb Crypto that's a 7809. That has no bearing. Weight does not matter in our sentiment, because we're looking at the quality in which the communities thrive around each one of these tokens, because quality communities will drive price action. So remember, this isn't like a ranking from market cap. This is quite a bit different. So when we look at these charts like this, you'll see projects that show up in different sorts. When we say, all right, let's take a look at the top 10 by under 500 million in diluted market cap, or let's take a look at the top 10 by just our picks that we like and then rank them accordingly. Or we might say, hey, let's look at the top 10 of the top 100 by market cap. So there's a lot of variations that we can kind of compare to. Thanks for Playing is coming in at number 97704, and then Chain Games at 76.95. All of these are performing really well within their community. That's the whole point. When you make it into this list, the likelihood is you've got a game that's sticky enough, or you've got a project that's sticky enough, and we do get other metaverse projects that come into these, that games and play to earn just simply, in most cases, have the highest amount of community, and community, that feverishness that happens within these environments like that, especially on social, crypto Twitter, it really drives that love for these projects, which drives price action and people investing. So that's kind of how it goes. I want to jump to a couple of these charts and to get into some of these. Game Starter, real quick, trading at $1.76. And just as a reminder, make sure and put your questions into the side chat, because I'll try to get to those. If you have maybe some projects that you're interested in, let me know about those. And if you're watching this after the live stream, make sure and drop them in the comments, because we do read all those comments. Make sure and like the video too. We love to get that push and that little bit of bump. But Game Starter trading at 176. You can kind of see this movement over this last day, hence why we're seeing them really kind of at the number one spot right now, having a lot of good movement here in the short term. If you look at the 7-day, really a nice little bump they've had, and then a little bit of sideways action. And that's pretty typical of some of these projects. So when you're trying to invest in these, what I would recommend is just jump over here to the market tab real quick, and then this is going to give you the location where you can access these. So if you are, maybe wanting to go over here on PancakeSwap, or maybe you're an international client or a partner and you want to get onto Gate.io, that's another spot you can get at it right there. But all of these tokens, if they're trading and at least been listed to a certain extent, then they'll show up on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, one of those that will give you some indicators of where to go. But anyway, 176 on that one. Bomb Crypto trading at $2.39, but look at this, up 23% right here in the 1 day. Again, another reason why we've seen this one continuously rank very high, even though it did have a little bit of fall off right here. If you look at their 1 month, you can kind of see it was a downward trend. So whoever was buying right here at the bottom, this is the place to acquire this one. Now, a question will be asked, is this the time to buy this project? If you are looking at these emerging projects and you're willing to understand these risk tolerances, then this is one of those that we would definitely say, hey, yeah, this might be a good one. Just as a reminder, these are market movers. Market movers are pretty simple. We'll do the research, give you the sentiment data, and give you our insights and research, but we're not giving you financial advice. The idea is this hopefully gives you a framework to go in and research these a little deeper, and then find out if you're interested in doing something in terms of your strategy on these. Let's go over to Dark Frontiers. This is another one that has been recent. This one is on their all-time, but I want to look at the 7-day. You can kind of see this little bit of pop right here and this movement down here. Now, one thing that I do when I'm looking at some of these projects, when there is good sentiment around these, I'm looking for a declining coin, even though the sentiment is still tracking. What that tells me is that even though, and I talk about this often, when sentiment is best registered is when a project is in decline, just like a brand. When you have a downward decline occurring in a price action, but yet sentiment is still solid, that is a good project. Sure, you're going to get price action because people are doing, handling liquidity issues, taking profits, etc. That's the market in general. Don't get scared of those things. Those are the ones, though, that I always am very interested in following as sentiment goes in. Now, when you start to see sentiment over time starting to lower as price action is lowering, that's a problem. That is an issue that you can identify over time, and it's something we do all the time in looking at tokens. If you have not had a chance to look at some of our token analysis, go back and look at a video on Render, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Just watch that video. We do an analysis on sentiment over a period of time to give you a track record. Now, in that particular case, Render was on fly. It went, to some great numbers. People made some, great money with it. Another one is like when we do our deep dives on our high-risk portfolio, the one that I invest in. We did in the fall of last year that just did some crazy numbers. Black Eye Galaxy, Seek, Nabox, so many of those kind of projects. Again, same kind of scenarios, is watching those as they go forward. But if you look at D Horizon, another one that is also on the chart, this is their all-time. I want to jump here to their short term on the 3-month. And trading at 165, again, one of these that sentiment has held, even though we've had these little dips, a little bit of a chop, and then a little bit of stabilization. Again, one that I think might be in a position to get ready for a little bit of a move right here is D Horizon. And we'll look at some of these. I want to jump over to D Horizon's website just to give you guys kind of an intro on the game itself. But a lot of these, I always look to who are their partners. Dragonfly Capital, this always is a good one. Right here, BitScale, another one. And then, of course, the big boy, Animoca Brands. Let me zoom up on that so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I always look at these partnerships because partnerships are very key in the early stages of these micro caps or small gems in being able to identify, one, they need life force so they can continue to pay developers and get that game on the chop and being able to get it out to the market. Whether it is a play to earn strategy that's all NFTs and you're just doing digital assets, or if they have a token infrastructure and they're looking at trying to go to market with that. But that's one thing I always do to take a harder look at that. Battle Hero is another one, small market cap at 2 million. They're fully diluted is at 40 million. Again, this one all time had this big bump back here in November, which traded right there at the top around 10 cents or right at 0.10 cents. I guess right here is when we got into double digits. Yeah, 0.09. Yep, 9 cents. And then where we saw it right now is this bottom that we're seeing over this last little bit and this climb out that seems to be occurring right now. Again, this is one that starts to show up. And if we look back at the chart here, hang on one second, we'll pull that up. And I'll pop to that and just give you guys just an understanding of where Battle Hero is. Right there in the center at 77.52, right above Dark Frontiers. Again, I compare these because it gives me a frame of reference to other projects because we can't invest in them all. I can't invest in them all. What I do is try to look at where the sentiment is holding. If there is a buy in there, because some of these are just, you can't catch them if they're on fly right now, meaning they're, going up the charts. That's not the time to be purchasing these. So you look at a GameStarter or Bomb Crypto, both on the fly, and then you look at some of these others like D Horizon, Battle Hero, who have had a little bit of a micro adjustment. Those have a little bit more opportunity to be able to go in and grab these X gains that you're looking to go at with these low caps. So that's one thing to look at here when getting into those. And I want to jump over here to the other one, and that is Place War. This one right here, we have had their CEO on before, and they've had a little bit of a move right here back towards the end of November. And then that downslide that occurred, here was their all-time low, or their low at that point, I should say. And then we've seen a little bit of a stabilization here. And I think this one, again, I've talked about this one before on the show, is as they launch their land component of this game, this will see another move and another spike. So depending on where your position is on Place War and some places in which you can grab it, let's take a look. You've got Gate.io if you're international. Pancake Swap most likely is the place that I would go get it if I was looking to go and grab this one. And then V2. But that's pretty much the spot and where you can grab these. Kind of curious. I want to learn a little bit about where you guys are getting your altcoins or some of these edgier coins, especially on the DEXs. How many of you, and this will be a quick poll just on Pancake's Uniswap, kind of curious, or other. So we'll fill out a poll real quick. How many of you are using PancakeSwap? How many of you are using Uniswap? Or maybe some of you are going right to Binance Smart Chain and going into your MetaMask. Let's make that the third topic. So MetaMask as the third, and then maybe other after that. We'll get over to that. Don't forget to put your questions over into the side chat. We'll try to get to those quickly. I want to jump over here to Chain Games. This one, again, is another one of those that had this massive move right here in December. Some people made some money. We saw some profit taking, and we've seen this one right here at the bottom. And if you look at the 7-day, you're starting to see a little bit of a trough right here occur and then some movement. I would watch this one a little bit closely and be ready, because if this starts to show signs of movement out of this trough right here, this one could be on a little bit of a climb in terms of where this project is going. And again, let's take a look at Chain Games just to show you a little bit about the project itself. If that loads up, we'll see. Here it is right here. So you can kind of see play to win, live esports contest. This is why I think this one has some interesting elements behind it. And of course, the graphics are always killer. So, and the other aspect is they're really going in for the true gaming community, which is download for Windows, download for Linux, Mac OS, and of course, Android. So kind of cool. See what their video has to say about that. We'll let that go. Cool that down. So you can kind of see, all right, so it's got a great, great gameplay, really, overall. So I could see why this one is continuing to rank and maybe potentially have a little bit of movement here. I want to do a little bit deeper dive in research on this one, because this one, if it does have some softness in the market and you've got this kind of program, let's look at the team, let's look at the partners, and then make some decisions of whether we want to go and continue on that. Some new ones are projects that are not listed yet, and that is this one right here, Sin City, and be on the lookout. This kind of has that Grand Theft Auto appeal, I think, but it's showing up again in the market. This one also, Monstera, also not listed yet. You can check the player on this one. Again, I look at these show up on our list in terms of releases and early pre-release projects. So you want to put these like on a watch list, just a nice little watch list, Google Sheet, something of that nature. We probably should publish a watch list on Diamond Circle. I think we might do that, start doing that, is publish just a general watch list on Diamond Circle. But if you compare what's happening over on the top two right now, like GameStarter and Bomb Crypto, this is something that I do look at. This is Social Blade, and it's just looking at when these projects take off. Look at the growth of Bomb Crypto right here. This will tell you a lot of adoption, but at the same time, you've got GameStarter. Remember, GameStarter a little different because Bomb Crypto more of a game, GameStarter more of a launch pad. But you can kind of see as GameStarter starts to roll out other projects, I would have to pile those in on the overall social ranking to try to compare and see what that overall community looks like. But the point is that this is the uptake. Remember October? That was Metaverse weekend, I think October 27th, when Facebook announced their movement into Meta. That was when we really started to see a lot of these projects starting to move upward, even though we didn't see a lot of movement right there on GameStarter back towards the end of November. But anyway, this is a good example of things that we'll do on really kind of tracking these projects down. I want to get over to some of your questions today because I know you guys have a ton coming in. All right, well, this is a good one. Waifu Hunter, I refuse to touch anything. Ethereum gas fees are gross. Okay. I understand where you're coming from, and I get that. But at some point, don't put yourself in a position where you are oblivious to the potentials that what could happen in the ETH ecosystem. I'm still a lover of ETH. I do have my reservations as to whether or not it can make a full-blown shift to 2.0, but I'm still a lover of ETH and still one of my biggest bags. But the point I'm getting at is don't what's that terminology? Don't cut your nose off, spite your face. Yeah, that one there. Don't do that, because you may win big on one or two projects over there. That's the only way you can get to it. And sometimes you just gotta, suck it up, pay the gas fee, and then go make your money. So be thinking about that. All right. Aleska, Paul, can you take a look at Warina? That one I've actually seen on the watch list of some of the, just the general tracking systems that we look at in general. So I'm going to put that one on our watch list, and I definitely will take a look at it. What's happening with Block from JStan? Listen, they fell out of our top 20, or actually our top 10. And when we look at our top 20 metaverse, this is when you're looking at things like Sand, Gala, all the big boys. And Blocktopia was in there in our last ranking in early December. In our early January, we just did this video. Go back and check it out. But they fell out of the top 10. I was surprised. They went into the 11 through 20. I think there's just so much happening within these ecosystems of Metaverse, and there's so much noise in the market. Unless they are really popping out and doing a lot of outreach, a lot of these projects are suffering just a little bit. I think Blocktopia might be one. Of course, they could also be on the cusp of doing a little release. So maybe when people are silent, watch out, because that usually means something's happening good, something that could also be happening bad. Got a super chat in. Thanks, Yahor. Paul, have you added any of these tokens other than Game Starter to your high-risk portfolio? Let's take a look. I'll tell you exactly which ones we have put into our portfolio and which ones we own. Or which ones we own. So Game Starter is an own. Bomb Crypto I have purchased and sold. Place War I hold. And then Dark Frontiers I have purchased and sold. So just so you know. Let me get over to the polls real quick and see where we are on the polls. Let's pull this one up. 2 polls. Guys kind of always communicating with me in here. All right, how are you buying low-cop altcoins? Okay, 53% of you are saying PancakeSwap. That's great, good. It's a great tool. Directly on MetaMask wallet. I'm impressed with that. 33% of you are using MetaMask directly in. I like that. Even though MetaMask, and we probably should do a video on this, they have had that or are looking to do that update with their wallet. It's about time too, I think. But I just would be secure with your MetaMask wallet. Try not to keep too much in there. Just always be relevant and be super cognitive about protecting that address and also who you're sending it to, those kind of things, just because of the potential for scams that could come your way. So just a good one. Uniswap, 13%. That surprises me. Uniswap, this is 170 votes on this. Uniswap, I'm surprised at that. Wow, PancakeSwap killing it. And of course, that's Binance Smart Chain right there and work in action. Let's get back here. Couple of super chats. Thank you so much. We appreciate those. Pat Sat 8K, Soul Chicks back on track. Don't know, they had a little bit of a climb, a little bit of fall off. We need to do a deep dive on Soul Chicks. And if you haven't followed that project, take a look at it. We'll do a deep dive, take a little bit longer look at their sentiment to see if this one is in a recovery mode to move forward. Here's another one. What we got here? Do you think it would be a good strategy to move on from saying, okay, here's a good one. BEP and the Sonic Signatures. Is that a band? Let me know if that's a band, BEP and the Sonic Signatures. If you got any music, shoot us some links. We like indie artists. But your question is, do you think it would be a good strategy to move on from Sand and Mana and try with new projects that can raise in the short term? See, you're thinking a lot. You're starting to do critical thinking here. I like this when our people, our audience start to critically, think about their investment strategy. Don't overthink it too much. Now, I would say Sandbox is still a hold. Mana, if you're looking for it in the short term, that is one of the best buy tokens out there right now. Mana is at a very good discount. We'll probably see some movement from them because they're going to do what they have to do to keep up with the Joneses. They're going to start dropping some news. And if that happens, Mana will move. The other aspect and strategy that you can take, and here's what some people are doing, and that is take the profits that you've made on some of these big icon tokens, take those profits, keep your core in there, and move those profits into a risk portfolio. Now, maybe that's a moderate risk portfolio, or maybe it's going into these low cap gems like what we're talking about today. And that is something that's a good portfolio in the sense of just a lot of variety and not overbearing in on any one specific area. So that's good stuff. Super chat coming in from Edmund. Thanks so much. Would love a deep dive on Kronos, the ecosystem. I like that. Crypto.com partnerships, projects like VVS and Finance. That's a good one. We just did a Crow video last week. Very popular too. I was surprised, not surprised it was popular, but surprised that there were so many people interested in Crow. So I think this is a good one. Maybe we need to dive a little deeper on that one and really bring out some good stuff. Let's go here with Safia. Gala versus Engine. Ooh, man, you guys are throwing some good ones at me today. Gala versus Engine. I love Gala, just the game array that they have coming, but Galaverse I felt was all priced in, so I don't know that Gala's going to move too much until they do something big, I think, in the first quarter. Gameplay, some things like that will start moving. Engine, their deal, obviously, with Chromia, things that have just happened. There's a lot happening in that space, and it wasn't Engine. Engine was, yeah, Infinity, sorry. Polkadot, yeah, I'm getting that mixed up with Chromia and what's happening over there. But Engine, yes, moving with what's happening with their project on Infinity, which is obviously the one that won the Polkadot parachain. Man, there's so many projects to keep track of. I'm going to need like a cheat sheet to keep up with you guys out there. So you guys are doing great. Super chat coming in from Tex Doom. Thought on Neo VR and its NCR. And its coin NCR. Live Metaverse seems a way, but I don't see anyone talking about it. Am I missing something? So I will say this, that it's a bit of a crowded space right now in the AR, VR, Metaverse side of things. There are a handful of projects out there, OVR, Seek, which did a little bit of a no-no with their deal with H&M here recently. But check out their Twitter feed, you'll figure out what I'm talking about. But there are some things out there. I think just the fact that you have so many of those, and then you have Sandbox, you have Mana, and you have kind of the bigger players in the Metaverse side of things, it's hard for some of these upstarts to really kind of take over. And then if Blocktopia shoots out and does something, you kind of run into a little bit of a trouble with some of those. What do you think about Sidious and Game? Sidious we've talked about on the show before. In fact, we've ranked them in our ones to watch video. I still like the project. It's not one that I'm invested in. I don't know if I would go into that just yet, but I am trying to restructure. We do want to put some more tokens into our high-risk portfolio, so we're looking for some. That might be one to go with. More super chats. Thank you so much for the great job. 9K, this is a good question. 9K to invest, and I'm debating DOT or AXS, Axie. Axie, but DOT gives the option to participate in crowd loans to receive some of my layer. Okay, release on time tokens. Which one? This is a good one. Not financial advice. What I would say, though, I will tell you what I've done, because I own both tokens, Axie and Polkadot. I like both tokens. I am looking at Axie only because of the staking rewards. Now, we did a video on Axie staking, so you have to compile it. Now, you can still stake Polkadot. Polkadot is still one of the highest yield tokens out there. So depending on where you're putting your DOT, and depending on whether or not you're staking Axie, then I think you would weigh just the pure token price metrics or tokenomics between those two, Polkadot, Axie. Two completely different styles of projects. I would lean into Axie a little bit, but that's if you're staking. If you're staking, I would lean into Axie. If you're not staking, if you don't want to go through that whole process, it is a process. Check out the Diamond Circle, which is the link below. It'll take you to our page. You can actually learn how to stake Axie if you want. But if you're kind of lazy like me, then maybe you just go over, you get Polkadot, and you put it out there for yields, get on one of the exchanges that are paying high yields on that, and then you buy DOT. So that's an easy play. I know that's not an answer, but it's what I do. So I kind of play both sides of that because I look at Axie as a completely different animal. I think it's got a lot of vertical opportunity. DOT still has yet to truly pop, even though we're seeing some movement right now. It's still a great one. So, but both those are kind of coming. As I said, if you guys like these low cap gem, if these discoverable projects, is this what you want, make sure and let us know in the comments. We always like to get that feedback. And of course, if you want to reach out to us, very easy to do. And remember, disclaimer here, not financial advice. These are market movers. We'll give you a little data, give you a little juice on the sentiment information, but not market or not financial advice. If you're listening in over on the podcast right now, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate that. But the best place to jump in on all this is right here on YouTube. And you've got to subscribe and get on the channel, because this is where you're going to get notifications when we do live streams like this. And guess what? We're nearing 300,000 subs. And by the way, we're available on Twitch now, so make sure and drop in on Twitch if you guys are gamers out there. Jump in on Twitch. Get over and check out our first video over there. We just opened it up. We're going to see what we can do on Twitch, kind of get that word out there on crypto, but also on the gaming and play to earn sector, because we're really covering a lot of that in the Metaverse side. So I think that will be fun to do. If you want to reach me, easy, man. I'm like all over the place. Just go out to Twitter. It's @PaulBaron, MetaPaul. You can find me there. We'll catch you next time right here on Tech Path.